Alright, we're back to recording. So like I said, we lose our images every week. I have to delete more images off. So okay, what I had to do was lift up the canvas to get this bottom edge here. Okay, now I'm going to go into just the dark parts. Just the dark parts here. I'm going to go in here and start airbrushing his hair. Now I don't have a camera person, but I can zoom in. Just take me a little while. Now what I'm going to do is just sit there and kind of sketch out the hair a little bit. I just have to get the color going. I don't have to be real crucial on direction and everything else right now. But I'm going to try to start with the direction and try to get the properties built up of that directional of the hair. Now next week we're going to go into detail on how to do hair. Now most of the time I don't do too much scratching or erasing when I do hair. A lot of people do, but I'm kind of more of the old school style airbrushed where I'm not using mixed media. So what I pretty much do is all airbrush based on how you would have to do t-shirts. If you want full realism, then you have to do eraser and scratching techniques. And from what I understand right now, Wicked is coming out with a paint that's a erasable, rewettable illustration style paint. It's going to be pretty neat. So now what I'm doing now is I'm just sitting there kind of doing dagger strokes, kind of scratching in where the hair is going to be, constantly looking at my reference. I can't tell you how important it is to sit there and stare at your reference while you're doing this. Now as you can see, I'm not putting any thin lines in. I'm not going in with real thin lines trying to sit there and draw each hair individually. I'm just going in with this medium gray and throwing in where the hair is and bringing in my colors of that hair. Now once again, so far what have I forgotten to do with this hair? Anybody help me out? I got a whole bunch of proper lines going around. I got the flow going the right direction. I'm getting the coloring down. Kind of see the pattern of where the hair is going. What have I forgotten to do? There you go. Thanks, guys. Make sure you wrap that around the edge of the canvas. A lot of people don't do that. And you get done and the edge of the canvas, it forces the customer to have to put a frame around it. And a lot of people don't like frames. It also makes it, if you're displaying it, you don't have to sit there and get a whole bunch of frames for all of your displayed artwork. Okay, so now I got, as you can see, you already have a little bit of dimension built up with this hair. It's all going the right direction. Everything is flowing the direction that it needs to go. Where it's jet black in here, we can go ahead and do 100% coverage with this gray. We have certain areas in here that are jet black. A couple areas off in here that are jet black that we just kind of spray in that gray. Get it all covered. Now with the hair done, now we're going to sit there and move into the eyes, because that's the next darkest areas. Now here you can look at his eyes, look at the close detail. You have a black circle in the center. Try to preserve that white dot that you have. Now when I projected this, I couldn't see that there was actually a pupil in here. I couldn't see the detail. So I'm just freehanding where the pupil would be on both of them. Now because it's such a light gray, we can sit there and we can tweak where that pupil is with the other stages. So when we're sitting there looking at it, we can go, okay, that one's a little bit off or that one's off. But remember, both of the pupils should be looking directly at you if he's looking at you. If he's looking to the side, both of the pupils have to rotate in the eye sockets exactly the same. You don't want one pupil looking to the left or one to the right if the person's not if you're not going off a direct reference. Some people can have a lazy eye. Some people can have a Bell palsy, which makes one of the eyes drop a little bit. So you have to watch out for that. If they're that way in the original, then make sure you keep that. So it's very important to pay attention to that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is continue in here and start with the eyebrow. I'm going to put in the detail to this. Got little tiny lines up here from his on his forehead from wrinkles. There has a little curvature line in here where his eye wrinkles from his eyelash to his eye socket. Pay attention to all the little tiny lines if you can. The more you can pay attention to the little ones, the more it's going to look like Elvis. Okay, so far I haven't done any shading. I've just been drawing in the lines. Okay, now going around the eye, we're gonna do the circle around the eye. And now I'm gonna come in and do the little tiny lines that are inside the eyeball. Now I can see that the pupil needs to come over a little bit and a little bit larger. To make it correct. And I'm going to start with the eyelashes. Now it looks like he has a little bit of a raccoon eye, just a little bit of shadowing down here. Kind of a sleep deprivation. So we're going to come in there and just lightly shadow that line. Continue working on this a little bit. Now from the iris out, from the pupil out, we'll sit there and draw the lines in. Now we're just kind of barely drawing lines. I mean, you could see them, but they're very slight. So it's just starting to add a little bit of a texture to it. Now I'm going to go in and draw more of the eyelashes, which will end up being kind of the texture and shadowing on the skin of the eyelashes. That's why working with every single color is very important. Okay, now from here, the shadow line goes to the nose. So what we'll do is we'll slowly shadow that in. Now because we're working with such a soft color, such a color so close to the background, that you barely see that going on, but it's there. So it gives me time to correct it as I'm going. It's not like trying to work with a black, trying to get a light coverage out of a dark color. So it's more forgiving this way. Now I'm going to draw these lines in. We have an arc line here that comes down on the eye. We'll draw that in softly. And then this front edge of the eye is all shadowed. Now if you have a problem doing portraits, no, this is even lighter. This is almost just an off-white. If you have a problem drawing an eyeball, looking at a smaller version of it, drawing it bigger, then just crop out that eyeball and make it as big as your original is. Or you could even go larger when you're working with artwork. You know, it's where you basically have a set of lips, an eyeball, an ear, a fingernail, whatever you're having difficult time with. You can blow it up as big as you want on the printer, and if it's just on one sheet of paper you only get one eyeball, then that's all you need, because that's what you're doing the detail work with. So pay attention to all the details. If you're having a hard time, print it out at a larger scale. So now this section here is all rolled under. His eye is actually rolled underneath. So that would actually be a shadow, just like our cylinders that we've done. So you're going to shadow that bottom edge so you get that rolled look to it. Then it comes out and it kind of fades outward this way to make it look like his eye socket comes back out. So we'll just shadow that just slightly there. Okay, see the way how this part now looks high and it looks like it slowly drops down into that area? So that's how you start manipulating the deep spots on a face. So now we're going to come in here and shadow in here just to bring this part in a little bit. Okay, now we've dropped in his eye socket a little bit. We're going to continue coming back in here doing some of the detail. And in here you can see the little corner of his eye. You can see all the little tiny detail in here. So we'll just kind of slowly put that in there. Not real defined, but just enough to where you see it there. Now this is where you get into people trying to do an exact photograph of the person, or you're doing an artist's interpretation of the person. I like kind of struggling in between the two. I like it to where if you wanted an exact replica of it, then take a picture of it, print it out, and you're done. But to add little artist flares to make it that kind of sketched look, or that soft airbrush look, that to me is where the artist part kind of comes into it. All right, so now I'm gonna drop some of this highlight down into the nose area. And this is gonna be what brings his nose out. Okay, so now I just brought in a little bit of a shadowing coming down here. And I'm going to start working on the other eye. So now with this one, it's a darker version of the same eye. It's shadowed more because it's pushed back further. So right off the bat, we'll just kind of come in here and kind of sketch his eyebrow bone line, and then come in and start doing the darkest areas of the eyelashes. Coming in, doing just all the black lines that you see. You're going to go back over with darker colors. But just trying to get the shadowing lines in there and stuff. But you can see how soft this color is, how we could actually go completely in the wrong direction and still have plenty of time to come back in and fix it. So now we shadow that up and see how that brought that nose forward. So now with this area up here done, now we can drop down a little more. So what I'll do is I'll work a little bit more on this up here, bring this up. This eyebrow. This is what we have so far. Now this shadow here comes down here and continues underneath the nose, part of his cheek area. Now we look at his nose and he has a real dark area in his nostril here. Now you can look, this is almost a perfect arc in here of a shadow line, right? Just right through there. Now what I'm going to do is do the rest of the shadowing that's up here and bring his nostril, give it that depth that it has. Has a little bit of a line here. That comes down almost to the mouth and then kind of fades out. Going to add a little bit of a shadow on the top of his nose. His nose has a little bit of a bump out here, so it has to have a little shadow in there just to create that illusion of the lights being reflected there. His nose has a little bit of a peak line in it, so we can shadow that, bring that peak line in. Now we're just going to shadow just a little bit around the nostril to drop that down in there. Now this right above his nose right here is all kind of shadowed in there, just a little bit. Just kind of look at what you got there on the original and kind of follow along. Down here it's a pretty distinguished line here that's right in this area, so we'll add that in. So as you can tell, basically that's all I'm doing is airbrushing what I see. See a little line that goes across here, I add it in. It's a little bit of a definite line there. Now I'm not going to go crazy with all the detail into his skin tone, to where what you would do is you would take an eraser and you'd sit there and erase out little tiny dots and little tiny texture and stuff, and then go in there and fog back over it and work it again and fog back over it. And that's how you build up a lot of the depth that you have if you're trying to get that realistic skin tone look. Okay, now he has a real definite black line inside his lips here. And if you look, he has a slight bit of a bridge of a mouth here. Now, one thing I like to do is draw whatever definite line is there on this outside edge here. Fade that in. So that way I kind of can grid from this line to this line where the darkness is. So here I'm able to see that this is dark in here. Then right in here there's a little tiny bump in his lip, and then it comes down.